Hi, welcome to Scotty Wandering. My name is Peter, and I am giving you a secondary trip to Bigfoot Beach State Park and give you a campground tour of what would be considered more the RV section. I was here several years ago, did a tour that really focused on, well, what's around the park, as well as the unique walk-in park section of the campground. I kind of glossed over this section where the RVs would be, and I'm gonna rectify that because these are nicer than I thought. I did a driving tour. You really couldn't see what was going on, but some of these sites are much nicer than I realized, and certainly that I could see driving through it when the leaves are fully filled out. So I'm gonna walk you through this entire campground, show you what's here. Now, there's a reason I'm here. I am here mid-May. I am going to walk the entire lake path. And I figured this is the perfect place to walk that, to make that happen from. You need to have a place where you can start and end at the same place, around this lake. And this just seemed like the perfect place. For $18 a night, so for 2 nights, I'm at 36 bucks, which is basically the same price as one of the electric sites across the way. You're not going to find anything cheaper in the Lake Geneva area. So I'm going to do this whole lake shore path tour tomorrow, and then I'll be able to come back here tomorrow night and just collapse exhausted and not have to go anywhere afterwards, and that'll be quite nice. But I'm going to walk you through this campground right now, this evening, because it's a beautiful evening. I'm shocked that it got to 70 degrees today. It was a very cold morning, so let's go look around. Now, in case I kind of missed the point, the lakeshore I'm walking is around Geneva Lake. We are just outside of Lake Geneva here. This is the only campground in the area, anywhere near here. Closest one beyond that, you got to go out to Bong or up to the Kettle Moraine Southern Unit. There's nothing else down in this area, private or public. So this is really a very nice location near the shores of the lake. Now, the campground's kind of in the back, and I'll show you a section of the campground that way in the back is kind of near neighborhoods, so you may want to avoid that portion. Now, the first section that I did do a deep dive on before, over here, you have park out in the parking lot and you walk into your sites. And in Illinois, that's quite common. There are sites like that. And I felt like when I was looking through the other half of the campground that it was just RV only. But now that a closer look of it, there are RV sites, and then there are a whole lot of sites that are non-electric that are good for car camping, where you pull up to and park in your site, and short pads and plenty of room for tents. So we're going to look at it that way this time. So we're going to walk through this. I'm not sure what my full site numbers are, but we're starting with 37, and it's electric. Now, it's not a huge site. You got a lot of trees you got to watch out for. So that's something to look for in this video, is how do the trees work for you. 38 over here, again, fairly short pad. Electric, but a lot of room in the back there, a lot of green space. 39, now he's actually past the pad, but a huge space in the back. 40, again, short pad, got a tree that'll keep you from going too deep. 41, I guess they're not really, well, this one's still on the pad completely. Lots of room behind. 42 here, there is a ton of space for tents and things back behind the camper. 43, you can see how short that is. That's like 25 feet max in there. And a nice place back here. No power, but a great place for tent camping back here. 44, over here. This one you have length. If you need length, this is a good one. It goes quite a bit back, And then there's a nice space even in the back beyond that for tents. There are a couple more sites here. We'll get to that. So it's one big loop all the way out and back, and then just a couple little sites right here. Okay, 45, slight uphill slope on that. Huge space in the back there behind it. 46, this one's a little tight. The picnic table's taking up half the space. It's not a very big one, big grassy space on that one though. 47, see how they're squeezed in there? Rear tires at the back of the pad, but a ton of room in the back. 48 is empty right now. Picnic tables at the back of the pad, and then a huge amount of space continuing back into the woods. It's a really nice wooded space. You can actually see that in 49 here. We got a travel trailer, and then a tent behind that back into the woods. Really nice, tucked away in the woods sites. 50 on the other side, again a very short pad. You can't cheat this one much because there's a tree at the edge of the pad. And then a nice little green space behind. But you can see some of these sites, you're really butted up against your neighbors on the back side of the loop. It's a very tight loop. No parking on grass, it says so on the signage. 51, electric, a little longer pad here. Ton of room in the back there. 52, not a huge pad. Fire ring is right past the pad there. So if you overhang, you're overhanging over the fire ring. A little more green space over there for a tent. 53 over here, you can see a fairly long pad and room to overhang there, and all sorts of room in the back. That site is actually quite large for tents. 54, compact site. Not a lot of room back behind there. It's pretty tight. All right, 55 over here. Nice pad there, plenty of room to overhang, and a lot of room in the back. 56 over here, fairly short pad. Not a lot of grass on this one to play with. Okay, coming up on 57 on the right. This one is quite large. Now, this one you got to dance around trees. These trees in here get pretty close and tight. Nice long site here. That's a pretty big pad. Plenty of room to overhang and a nice green space in the back. And we're going to come over and take a look at my space in 58. Come all the way in. So I'm 20 feet, maybe another 5 feet beyond that, so not a whole lot. I wouldn't be able to overhang a lot if I was coming the other way because of that tree. But look at all this room I have inside my space. But you can see I'm backed up to all my neighbors, and right now I can see them. Some of that more will fill in as the summer goes through, but right now you're very much with your neighbors. Okay, 59. We're tight within these trees here. Not a lot of extra room, but there's extra length to overhang off the pad in the back. Where am I? 60 over here. This one again has a big green space. This one's electric, but your outside space is sort of on the wrong side of a trailer because your door would be over here. So just be aware of that. 61, again, not a huge thing, and not a lot of room behind. That is pretty small space beyond the pad. Barely room for tents there. All right, actually I have 62 over there and 63 over here. Let's look at 63. Electric, short pad, fairly short, maybe 30 feet long. But you might have room to set something next to it. But a nice green space in the back. 62 over here, longer than the pad in my site. No electric, so it's again a non-electric site, but you have room for tents around it. 64, again a sort of backward site. So if you noticed, I had pulled in, so my door was over on the right hand side. So I was accessing the picnic table and fire ring. There's always a crow. Picnic table and fire ring off to the right side of my van by pulling in. So I had to maneuver in funny, but you can see how close I am to the neighbors here. 65 over here, a little more space to play with. Nice wide space, and it continues off back into the corner there. Okay, we're coming to the back end of the loop, and normally you'd think that this would be the quiet area, but there's a neighborhood over there, and there's a fairly major road and high school right over there. So it may not always be the quietest spot. 66 over here, a little longer pad than some of theirs, still not huge. These aren't huge sites, but a lot of green space back there. 67, picnic tables taking up a chunk of the space here. Nice big area over there for tents and things, but we are still early season, so they're just working on maintaining the sites, keeping things clean, and people haven't even moved into these sites yet. 68 with this shorter travel trailer there. That is kind of maxing out the space there. That cannot be the vehicle that brought it in though. So that's 68. 69 over here. 35-foot pad or something like that. And quite a bit of space behind. And this one feels somewhat isolated except for your neighbor right there. 70 over here. This Class C is just fitting in there. It could be a little deeper, but there's a tree back there that you run into. Look at all that space on the side. 71, now we truly are backing up to the neighborhoods over here. 71, but a lot of room in the back there, but there goes a car right off the back side. And there is a trail access road in the back here that people do come in and go for walks. And we actually just had a couple come through with a really big dog from that neighborhood. Water source here in the back. 72. Again, a fairly short pad, non-electric, not as much space as mine, and you can kind of see through to the neighbors there. Over here we got a campground host who has a ton of green space. A nice amble conversion. Those make me jealous. Now that's one of two camp hosts. There's another one closer to the other section of the campground. 74. Backing up to a neighbor over there, I can actually see their lawn tractor over there through the woods here. This one's got a lot of room. The pad isn't huge, but it's flat. It continues flat beyond, and that grassing area looks really nice and flat. 75 here on the inside. A little more dirt based in here than grass. Again, not a huge pad there. After that, we come to a fairly new pit toilet. These are only a couple years old. There is a brand new shower house down there too as well. 67 here. That's not one of the shorter pads, but so you can actually put two cars in here comfortably, or a car and pop up or something like that too. Room for tents out back there as well. 77, electric over here. Don't be confused by the two power poles. That one is for the next site. Yours is over here. The pad isn't long, but there's a ton of room behind. Nice big grassy area in the back there. Comes with squirrels. 78, again, a fairly short pad, maybe about the same as mine was. I'm right over there. Big grassy area around it, again on the wrong side per se for normal use for a trailer or something, but if you come in here and you don't care, it's perfect. Okay, 79 and 81 are both accessible sites. Kind of surprising because they're not right next to a restroom. Usually they're right next to the restrooms. But these are both accessible sites. Across from that, I've got 80. Again, fairly short pad, maybe 25, 30 feet at the most. This one doesn't have a lot of room in the back because you are butt right up to the neighbor over there. 82, backing up to my site over there. So if you want, you and a friend book the two together, they'd actually work really well with a friend. One gets power and one doesn't. Kind of share that cost if you need it. 83. Not a lot of space off the pad on this one. It's a little rougher. But if you're fine just being on the pad, then it's perfect. 84. A little longer, that might be 35 feet there. And a little bit of grassy space around it. What am I here? Electric, this is their 85. Yeah, pay attention to the lengths in the system of how big a unit you can put in there. 86 over here. Some grassy area in the back. 87. The tent's taking up most of the space that's left over with electric. 88. And I'm telling you, 18 bucks a night just on the edge of Lake Geneva is a pretty good deal. 89. Actually, this one's got a really long pad. So you can fit something quite long in here, no electric, and there's room around the tree to put tents, smaller tents, not big ones. 90 over here, non-electric. Actually a fairly big pad, plenty of room for tents. 91 over here, non-electric. That's actually a fairly long pad. It's almost the entire site, this pad there. 92. This one doesn't look used much. It's a little overgrown. There's not a lot of room beyond that picnic table. That's about all of it. Now let's take a quick look at this shiny shower house here. So there's a men's restroom, women's restroom on the other side, and 6 regular shower rooms and 1 family shower / toilet space in here. Really nice little building here. 94 over here is a paved electric site. So it's paved all the way back, and then a nice grassy area on the side over there. Now here's that little cutoff between the 2 loops near the beginning. So we'll go take a look at those first. Okay, 96 here, shower house there. The small pad here, it's totally right angle to the road, and all that grassy space over there with curtain dandelion fluff. And 97 over here is actually kind of nice. It's an angled pad, not huge, but and a nice big grassy area over there. And we'll continue with 98 over there. Okay, next to the shower house we have 98. Not a lot of space beyond the pad. It's all dirt right behind it, and a little bit of grass heading towards the restrooms where the picnic table is. 99 over here. Small pad, a little up, and then it flattens off, but a huge space over here. You can fit several big tents in that green grassy space that is kind of nicely isolated. We'll fill in a little more, and that's where you come in to the loop. 100 over here, not a huge pad, but again, a huge grassy area off to the side. There's a couple more sites around the corner on the way back out. Oh, there goes the deer, ran away. 24 and 25 over here, both electric. Not huge paths, but massive space in the back, enough for a herd of 5 deer at least, easily. And then you have the camp host, just that, and this is all across from the walk-in sites. Well, that's my tour of Bigfoot Beach State Park non-walk-in sites. There's more here than I thought of before. If you want to know see my full video from before, that'll be there. If you want to know more about the walking path, that'll be there. I'll also put them down in the comments or in the description. If you've been here before, if you got any comments about this place, please let me know. Like and subscribe and get out and enjoy our public lands.